Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ha, Rakah Kwadash, Ma'amah. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and the elders. Double honors to my elder as well, Aharawan Banyasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp here in Jacksonville, Florida. And salutations to the fellow Akim, Atwafium, and children that believe in truth and sincerity. All right, Banya. It's your brother Athan Allah back to you with another lesson. Yahweh Ratazah is edifying. And it's just a quick news topic, a news update, all right, pertaining to a nuclear war, World War III, America, Trump pretty much neuro putting his trying to put his grip on Iran. All right, the bishop had put this in the group chat as the title reads. It says Iran insists it will continue to enrich uranium with or without a nuclear deal. Right, because nobody want a deal from you anyway, Esau. All right, you deal treacherously, man. But it says U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff declared that the Donald Trump administration's red line in the nuclear talks with Iran is Tehran's ability to enrich uranium at any level. So they don't want them dealing with uranium at all. All right. That's because they scared. You know, that's Esau guilt complex, right? As Iran vowed to pay back due to your ill dealings, man. Again, the last time Trump Nero was in office, he went out there allegedly put the hit out on their general Soleimani, right? And we know, according to the truth, that Iran plays a big role when it comes to prophecy, man, in the end times and kicking off the end all be all, man. The nukes, the missiles, right? World War III, their conflict with Israel, right? So they don't want them dealing with uranium at all at any level. It says prompting Iran to say it will continue enrichment with or without a deal, right? You know, one of the first scriptures that came to mind when I saw that was let the weak say I'm strong, Joel 3:10, you know, and how what Jeremiah 50 also states how the hammer of the earth. Okay, this is Jeremiah 50 and verse 21. Salakia, verse 22. A sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Right, man. How did this place, all right, once being the hammer of the earth, forces his unrighteous decrees, his draconian measures, right, his demonocracy throughout the four corners of the earth, setting up a dictator throughout these foreign nations and countries, all right, ultimately to do his will, to do his bidding. Look how the tables turn. All right, today, right, you got Iran, Russia. All right, it's all biblical prophecy, and the Lord forewarned us and told us that this was going to happen. That these other heathen nations ultimately were going to um, come into alliance with each other, ultimately to come against this great whore, Babylon the Great. All right, Missily Babylon, America. All right. So this has been what the from being the spokesperson of NATO and pushing those draconian measures, right, and demonocracy amongst these other nations. All right, is ultimately coming back to bite them in his ASS. All right, as the scriptures say, how is the sound of battle in the land, man? It's the sound of battle, wars and rumors of wars. But as the scriptures say, the end is not yet. All right, but what? How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? Right. Once was the hammer, man. Once had that force upon the earth, man. You know, but look at Esau now. All right, and Trump with that mindset that he has, he's the perfect fool, right, to be in the position that he's in. All right, to be the pharaoh of this second Egypt, man, the president, right? Because he's full of pride. He thinks that he's going to actually make America great again. He thinks that he still has that same pull, that same power, all right, that same muscle and flex and might, all right, throughout the four corners of the earth, all right. But little do he know the Lord has took that away from him, right? So it's ultimately that pride is going to lead him to the king of terrors, man. This is the book of Job, chapter 18 and verse 14. His confidence shall be rooted out of his tabernacle, and it shall bring him to the king of terrors. All right. It shall dwell in his tabernacle because it is none of his, right? This kingdom is none of yours. All right. You built this kingdom after the blood, sweat, right? The grape, the robbery, and the unaliving of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. You know, the apple of the Lord's eye. All right. So, hey, just as you spoileth us and dealt treacherously with us, you're gonna be spoiled. You're gonna be dealt treacherously with. All right. Starting with Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, most importantly, how he's gonna sick these heathen nations upon you to take you out of your misery, to take you out of your rulership, and then we're gonna be next, right? Jacob is gonna be next. Lazarus is gonna be next. All right. So again, it shall dwell, this is back in Job 18 and 15, it shall dwell in his tabernacle because it is none of his. Brimstone shall be scattered upon his habitation. You know? Verse 16. Hey, that brimstone is what? Those ICBMs, man. And to be a nuclear power, you need uranium. You know, so these people, they don't even want them to deal with uranium, as we're gonna go back to the article and read a lot more. All right. They don't even want them to deal with uranium for the benefit of their citizens, you know. But look at over here in the West, all spoiled. You know, you got other countries like Cuba and stuff that have constant power outages and stuff because of how their grid is set up. You know, so the people over here is spoiled in America. All right, it's spoiled. You know, imagine paying your light bill or what it is now, and your lights constantly go off, but you still pay that price. You know, schedule outages like Cuba, because their grid is different. You know, they don't have um, the amount of uranium and things like that to condense and have, you know, store up their energy. You know, because pretty much how the economy runs when you go into that uranium, you know, it's all the energy and everything in a quote unquote society has to be managed, so to speak. All right, or it just blow up. You know, like the elder had made a reference to how the elect, if all the elect was in one spot, man, like it can't happen. Like it'll something will happen. You know, fucking explode or something. You know, this is even the scripture. I believe it's in Ezra's how the world can't hold them all at once. Roughly paraphrasing for that reason. But uranium deal with like the fossil fuels and just the harnessing of the energy that the economy and stuff like that produce, right? But it continues on, right? But then you got countries like third world countries that like don't even have AC and stuff like that. But America is spoiled, man, due to what? The inventions of Esau, the inventions of man. You know, America is just a melting pot and a consumer to where they have everything here. You know, um, our elder mentioned that in our last lesson in the camp on how, you know, the trees and how everything the Lord has created set in stone, it gave off a savory smell to the Shemaims, to the heavens, to the fourth dimension. But now with man and his devices and his mind, corporations and stuff like that, all you can smell is, you know, what they would call global warming, right? The oil and gases and tires burning and so on and so forth, you know. But it's back in Job 18 and 16, all right, going back to what, how the brimstones, these missiles are going to be scattered upon his habitation, man, because of his pride. Verse 16, his roots shall be dried up beneath, and above shall his branch be cut off, right? You know, because the roots ultimately will store the nutrients for the branch to continue to grow. All right, you're not going to continue to grow. You're not going to be able to make America great again. You know, this plant is ultimately going to completely die. Right? It's not going to be revamped. You're not going to be able to prolong it. But just going back into the article, all right, it says we cannot allow even 1% of an enrichment capability, right? Because when you, uranium is enriched, that's where enriched uranium is what can create a bomb. Wyckoff told ABC on May 18th, insisting any enrichment, even for civilian purposes, could enable weaponization. Right? Everything begins with a deal that does not include enrichment, because enrichment enables weaponization, and we will not allow a bomb to get here, he said. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi quickly rejected Witkoff's demand, calling it unrealistic and disconnected from the realities of the negotiations, right? They disconnected from the realities of how it's a vendetta against this place, man. Again, they vowed to pay back of what America did, Trump did while he was in office in his last tenure, uh, from the hit on Soleimani, so on and so forth, man. All right. They're tired of being picked on. They don't want to be moved in a corner anymore. Like the scriptures say, how the teachers are not going to be moved in a corner anymore. That's why we're out there on the highways and byways teaching, reading you your rights spiritually, so to speak, before the Lord comes and brings the judgment, right? The Lord allowed the laws and things to be set in place for us to be able to do that, to do so. And once that is done, all right, ultimately the end is coming. All right, as the Lord sent out his prophets in every kingdom before it ended. All right, and this one is gonna be the same. All right, so just as such, man, the hammer of the earth is bullying these other nations. Now it's time for the bully to get bullied. You know, these other nations are not gonna take that anymore, especially when they see the window is open for you're being taken out of power. And again, the alliance pertaining to Ezekiel 38, and with Gog and Magog, Russia, right? As they have the BRICS alliance with these other heathen nations, man, China. So they worried about them making a bomb, but they can very well just receive a gift from China or Russia as they gift things like that to each other. It said enrichment in Iran will continue with or without a deal. That's what he said. They don't care about your deal. They don't want your deal. Look what you did to the so-called Native Americans and Seminole Indians, which is the tribe of Gad and Reuben, the Lord called them. They don't want your deal. This is Psalms 55 and 20. He have put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He have broken his covenant, man. That's all he go do. So the hell with your paperwork. You know, they even speak on how they want to reconsider uh, their nuclear doctrine. Just so they can put it in your paperwork, your little writing, that they can do what they go do anyway. All right, but again, the hell with your paperwork, Esau. Right? He says, he have put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He have broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Right? He comes smooth words, hey, we just don't want you making any bombs, blah, 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 blah. Just to get in your business, man. He's a one-trick pony. He has this is MO, right? His words smoother than butter, the scriptures say, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Right? These people don't trust you after what you did to their general. So the hell with your paperwork. Your paperwork and your sanctions and things like that mean nothing in them at this point because you break them. Look what he did to the Native Americans and Seminole Indians, man. Tribe of Gad and Reuben. He broke every treaty except for the taking of their land. Right? Gave them diseases. I believe it was smallpox. So they said enrichment in Iran will continue with or without a deal. Araghchi posted on X. They using Twitter too. It's crazy, bro. This is a stage. This is a it's a stage. You know, it's all a script, emphasizing that Iran's right to enrichment is non-negotiable as a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT). He added, if the United States is interested in ensuring that Iran would not have nuclear weapons, a deal is within reach, and we are ready for a serious conversation to achieve a solution that will forever ensure that outcome. You know, they keep on saying the deal is in reach, but then they keep on saying that they haven't seen a deal. So this is another game that they're playing with Iran, acting as if they're sending them deals or they're gonna propose them a deal, but they ain't seen it yet, right? Arachi criticized what he described as inconsistent U.S. messaging in public and attributed comments about zero enrichment to the Trump administration's attempt to pacify special interest groups, which he described as malign actors, right? Like Ukraine. Crazy. Because the president of Ukraine, even like our elder was telling us and brought it to attention, this dude from Hollywood, man, it's a script. You know, him coming over to the office with Trump, and they're part of NATO at the end of the day, so they in each other corner to a certain extent. All right, because again, we know that the allies of America ultimately go turn against them too because of their ill dealings. Man, it's gonna become too much of a burden. All right, so scriptures say these 10 shall hate the whore, man. Even your own allies is gonna begin to hate you because you're becoming a burden. You're becoming a burden on the earth. It says, aim at the standoff, Kamal Karazi, senior advisor to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, reinforced Iran's position on enrichment during an annual gathering in the Iranian capital on May 18th. I believe that was yesterday. He described Iran's nuclear knowledge as irreversible, right? Adding that Iran does not seek nuclear weapons, but regional nuclear disarmament should be a shared goal. Karazi has previously warned that while Iran may not be looking to acquire nuclear weapons, it can make a bomb and may reconsider its nuclear doctrine if faced with an existential threat. Right. Wickoff and Arakchi have met directly and indirectly in 4 rounds of nuclear talks mediated by Oman, but no date has been set for the 5th round. Some reports say the next meeting may be held over the coming weekend. Trump's last week said Washington was getting closer to a deal with Tehran and urged the Islamic Republic to move quickly. And on U.S. proposal, oh, excuse me, Rakata, and urged the Islamic Republic to move quickly on a U.S. proposal over its nuclear program. Arachi, however, insisted that Iran had not received a written proposal. It's the game Esau play. Like, oh, you got that email? You got that onboard email? We go hire you. Oh, you didn't get it yet? Check your junk files. You check your junk files, it still ain't there. You know, they have a proposal. More importantly, they know they have to move quickly or something bad is going to happen. Trump said. See, and that's a subtle, that's a threat, right? And shit like that not gonna work no more, man. Like, so something bad gonna happen. Hossein Agayi, a security analysis based in Turkey, right, said Trump's warning served as an unwritten ultimatum. Mm, right, that was a threat. And Turkey is what? You know, I believe that's the Istanbul, that region, right? So they go be with Gog and Magog, but added that the US president appears very optimistic about being able to get a deal with Tehran solely through diplomacy that meets U.S. demands, such as abandoning enrichment and scaling back regional activities. Trump is insisting on diplomacy and is very optimistic that diplomacy will bear results desired by the United States, right? And it's always got to be in your interest. They ain't budging, man. Them days over with. Unless the United States relents on its maximalist demands, it cannot get what it wants simply through diplomacy alone, right? Your demonocracy. Trump has threatened military action against Iranian nuclear facilities if the two countries fail to reach a deal. However, the T guy, however, has warned that it will retaliate if struck. So again, a couple more, I'm gonna close it. This is Isaiah chapter 33 and verse 1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and that was not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. Right. You know, you saying raise it, while a temple was being ransacked. You know, even in Obadiah it says, do the violence against our brother, shame shall cover thee. You know, so ultimately you dealt treacherously with us, and as well as these other heathen nations. So ultimately that treacherously dealing is going to be done to you, right? Woe to thee that spoilest, man. You spoil a nation upon nations, especially the apple of the Lord's eye, the Israelites, the nation that matters. So ultimately you're going to be spoiled, right? But it says, I'll read it from the top again. It's Isaiah 33 and 1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou was not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. Right. Now you want to try to make deals, and you might very well be want to go along with those deals deep down in your mind, your la'ab, your heart. But really you done burnt your bridges, you know? And it's all predestined by the Lord, man. Lord has set up a trap, you know. And you were bound and caught, roughly paraphrasing, because you striven against the Lord, man. You know, you ruled in with your blessing that He gave you, man, which was the sword, you know, which ultimately allowed it to tally up against you, so the Lord can bring the righteous indignation upon you. All right, it wouldn't be righteous if you wasn't filled with iniquity. You wasn't wicked, but He made you to rule in wickedness, and that's exactly what you did, and you did a hell of a job. All right, now the roosters is coming home to roost. These other nations is done with you. All right, and when thou shalt make to Salakia, and when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. Right. O Lord, be gracious unto us. We have waited for thee. Right. And that's the point. Isaiah 33 and 1. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 29. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 29, and verse 7. Many therefore have refused to lend for other men's ill dealing, fearing to be defrauded, man. Right? And that's just a clear cut scripture, sort of like a proverb, all right, on just how, man wouldn't trust the next man. All right. In this instance, it's not that Iran is seeking to lend or to get something lended to them, but just off the ill dealings of Esau. All right. They fear to be defrauded. They don't want no deal, so to speak. They don't want to be lended a deal, so to speak. They don't need no help. And they say they're gonna enrich uranium with or without one, with or without a deal. So stop fronting, and you might as well go with your move. All right, with your subtle threats. Right, it's gonna get real bad. That devil prideful, man. He's the perfect one, man. Trump, Nero, he very well is the perfect president to be in that seat right now, right? Pharaoh, they have a proposal. More importantly, they know they have to move quickly or something bad. Something bad is gonna happen. You know, that was quote unquote. But Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Shalom, Habatah, and DTA until the next one.